Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and Leap, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning and Test Bright, helping students and teachers alike exceed their educational goals, based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the two of us today, we have over 65 years experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The awesome sponsor we want to spotlight today is the Gauntlet. Let's meet our special guest, John McDowell. We're thrilled to be speaking with you, John. Welcome.
Hey, Mike and Amy, glad to be here. This is really exciting. Yeah, I'd love to talk about the Gauntlet, and it's kind of fun being on this side of the interview. Great to see you guys.
And how's that? Do you have a lot of experience as a podcaster or an interviewer, John?
Back in another life, I used to be a podcast interviewer for a day trading software company. So a
Wow,
little
that's
bit,
very different from what we're talking about right now.
yeah, it's much different. But excited to be here, though. Thanks for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what is the story behind the Gauntlet and what problem inspired it?
This is really exciting for me to talk about because I absolutely love helping students achieve their best, specifically on the SAT. So I'm an SAT tutor, as you guys know. And one thing that I found through tutoring with College Board material, Blue Book material, things like that over the years, my students back in, say, like 2024, early 2025, when the test went digital, it was just like, gosh, the material that I have is it's getting them a certain score in practice, but then when the test comes, we're getting a letdown. It seems like the tests are a
The
little bit
score
harder.
predictability factor, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I was just like thinking, like, gosh, I got to look around. I got to find, something maybe harder questions, that sort of thing. And as you know, there's a bit of a dearth, as it were, great SAT word there.
That is a great
Uh,
SAT word.
a bit of a dearth of those materials out there. And so I was like, all right, you know what? I I've got a couple of options here. I can either piece together a lot of things. I can try to write this content on my own. I can find maybe some people who are capable of doing this, some content writers or assessment writers, as it were. And just after having done a lot of research, trying all the platforms out there, I finally decided I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to build this thing the way I want and grab the content, create the content that my students need in order to get the scores that they want. And that led to building the Gauntlet.
So this is making sense to me, right? Because what you're pointing out is something we all realized that despite the presentation from College Board that the first released Blue Book exams would replicate the test day experience in every dimension, including difficulty,
Mhm.
we saw a big drop from the practice tests to the official tests. And that's, as you say, while College Board, nobody could accuse College Board of holding back on material. There are thousands of question bank materials. There are, as of our conversation right now, 8 full digital SAT exams, but we're always asking, like, how hard is this compared to your test day experience? So that's the strategic factor in your decision to lean into content creation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a good point there, Mike, because there are a lot of material on the College Board website, and it really is kind of the gold standard, right? A lot of great questions. And a lot of the newer tests are definitely harder. I usually send my students to things like practice test 11, practice test 7.
Mhm.
I'm particularly an SAT reading and writing shop myself. I do have a couple of math students from time to time, but I know the questions are the harder modules, and which tests on the College Board are probably going to be the best. So it's great that they've come along. The other problem though is that a lot of students come to me and they've already exhausted those resources. So it's like, what do you do with that? Where do you send them? And they're like, hey, we need more content. We need more tests to take. I already remember this test. And yeah, and so it was all about how do I create a solution for those high achievers who want to go even higher.
Okay, so that's another point, right? Is that what you're talking about is trying to provide material for high achievers because there may be 100, say, words in context practice questions in the Blue Book Educator question bank, but not many of them are level 3, and in the level 3, not many of them are sufficiently hard enough.
Correct. And then I would also say is that from my crowdsourcing of the actual vocabulary that they put on the real SATs, and a lot of those words don't actually show up, right? So not that it's not great to test with or practice with the type of questions that you're going to see, practice the strategies, that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's a secret anymore that ubiquitous is going to show up potentially on. I mean, you know this as well as I do, Mike.
Right, Amy, I don't know if you realize this, but John shares the same passion I do
With
for
following the Reddits
auditing
for
every released
yes,
Yeah.
SAT.
the
We're already
vocab.
starting to get information about the June test. It's just wild
Feels
and
like shooting at a moving target sometimes. But I suppose, John, for you, in terms of what you're doing with the Gauntlet, you're able to, in real time, keep up with some of what we're hearing about or seeing in the test in a way that we don't see that kind of same sort of updating in like Blue Book or on the question bank.
Yeah, and that's another great point, Amy, is that, a lot of the resources out there, whether it's College Board free stuff or there's, I would say, I don't know, every night it seems like a new test prep content site pops up with AI generated content, and
Hmm.
it's how do you actually generate new content that you see or your students are seeing on the real SAT. For example, I know in the tribe there's been a mention, some of the tutors there mentioning phrasal transitions.
The longer transitions, exactly. We're
Yeah,
all we're all trying to find good
exactly.
examples to give to our students to work on. Exactly.
Yeah. So working with my content writers, we've got like 30 of those, all segmented between easy, medium, and hard level, dissected into like 5 bite-sized drills, and you can assign those to your students. They can take them, and that's what I've been doing with my students. And hopefully they were ready because a lot of my students said they actually saw those questions on the June SAT.
that's fantastic. So describe the form function of the gauntlet. What does it look like? Who owns the account? Who's the user?
Great question there. And this is something that I've really tried to pour my heart and soul into. Long nights, bags under my eyes, trying to design this thing so that it's actually beautiful. It's something that students want to go to, want to use. You go to the College Board website, and don't get me wrong, it's a great resource. It's just like it's clunky and not user friendly, and it just feels like you're going to take a test that you don't want to take. And so I was thinking the whole time, like, I want to create something that my students want to use. It's pretty colors and nice pastels, and this.
Aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, absolutely. But not only that, user friendly, like a mistake log where they can go and see everything all at once and keep up with their track record on specific topics and skills and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, we've really poured a lot into that. And then to answer the question about who owns the student. So, with current laws the way they are, we're dealing with minors. So I think it's pretty much that, a student owns their own data. And we've kind of taken the approach that if you're a tutor and you want to bring a student to the platform, we try to make it simple for them. So it's like, hey, one click, one invitation, you send that to your student, they're connected to you, right? The student, if they want to, they can disconnect. Let's say they're not happy or something like that, God forbid. And I think that's very rare. But if they do, they can disconnect and they maintain ownership of their data, their process on the platform. But I think that makes it simple. I think it makes it simple for tutors, and especially with regard to pricing.
Is the gauntlet accessible to any student, or do students have to go through a tutor?
Yeah, so we make the site available to tutors or students or
Okay.
both, right? And I've gone back and forth on this, but honestly, it was kind of an easy question for me to answer because me as a tutor, I find it somewhat reductive. If you go to a classroom environment, you don't have that specific, let's just take a local high school here, Manatee High School. They don't have Manatee High School textbooks. They have Houghton Mifflin textbooks. They were written by experts, right? Let's just pick any other platform out there today. If you're a tutor and you have really good content, yes, white labeling is a great thing, but there's a lot to be said, I think, for the reputation of the content itself. And I think eventually students are beginning to ask because we do have the books out there, and and I'll even get students asking me, "Hey, do you tutor with this book or do you tutor with that book?" Because it has a name and
Yeah,
it's
of course.
synonymous with a solid reputation. So
I wasn't talking about white labeling though. I'm asking who is the user? You're saying that any student or parent who's listening to this, they could
Mhm.
just go to the Gauntlet and sign up and operate it themselves. But also, tutors and educators who are listening, they could conceivably set up an account that they could track students who are using the Gauntlet, right?
Yes, 100%. So both ways. It works both ways. Tutors can sign up, bring their students. Students can sign up and actually bring their tutors.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like that. Does the student get to see the tutor's results?
I haven't thought about that, but
Let's say no.
I will say though, Mike, like in my practice, this is all about transparency. Like I always showcase my students' results. I don't put their names out there. It's usually their initials. But again, that goes back to my original goal, and that is to get students the highest possible scores they possibly can, and to equip tutors with the right content and the right platform to help their students get the highest scores that they possibly can. So that's our overarching goal.
I'd love for you to explain how it works from either the perspective of a retail customer or a tutor who is then going to import students. What would pricing be like, and how would that work?
What we're doing right now is we're launching at the NTPA. So we've kind of got a window of opportunity. We're launching this to the NTPA, the tutors that are there.
You're talking about the NTPA National Conference in June 2026.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. After that, we're looking to really just have a vetting process where it's like, hey, are you a tutor? What's the name of your tutoring company? Let's chat, get in touch with me. We'll figure that part out. But for now, it's more like, hey, we've got this platform that I've been using with my students, having a lot of success with it. I want to open it up to the tutors and allow them to do that. So pricing wise, we're trying to keep it simple. One of the things that I wanted to differentiate with pricing, particularly because I mostly deal with SAT verbal students, is that
Mhm.
I didn't want to force a tutor who may be in the same position to pay or sponsor for a student and their math content, right? So most of the students that come to me, they're actually very high in math, 750 and above, and they're only looking for that verbal tutoring. So why not just pay $5 a month for accessing the verbal content, right? Now, if the student comes to the platform and they connect and you sponsor that, then they could then pay full price for the math content, right? Or vice versa. Maybe you're a math tutor or you want to do them both, just $10 a month flat. But
Hmm.
what's really cool about what we're doing is instead of charging tutors $10 a month flat, like every 30th or 31st of the month, we both know that SATs don't usually fall on the 30th of the month, right? So what happens if a student signs on in March and they're going for the June 6th SAT, they just took it, well, then you've got to pay for that student if you sponsored them until the end of June. Well, not on the Gauntlet. So what we're doing is if June 6th was the end of the cohort and they're taking a break during the summer and they're not on the platform, all you have to do is deactivate that license, and then we credit the remainder of the month of June for your next cohort or your next cycle. So
Very nice.
feasibly saving some
Mhm.
tutoring companies or solo tutors thousands of dollars a year.
Well, I like how everything you're doing, we understand, right? Mike and I, because being in the industry, we understand this idea of tests aren't on the 30th of the month, or we understand that not all students need verbal and math content. Like all of these things that mean there are choices. And these choices that sound like really address kind of a lot of the pain points that we see working with students or families. I love that you call it the gauntlet because for me, I'm like, oh, whoa, that's hard stuff, right? But it sounds like you have material and there's resources for students who probably are trying to get an 800 though as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the Gauntlet is actually just a small subsection of the content on the platform. It's 150 of the hardest verbal questions and 150 of the hardest math questions, and then the hardest mock test you've ever taken, right? That's it. That's the Gauntlet, right? Looking to add about 50 more questions on the verbal side and math side to bring that to 200 for each in the next book, and then we'll put that on the platform as well. But yeah, thousands of drill questions that are range from easy, medium, and hard. Some of the tests are, I would say that the practice tests themselves do lean hard. Obviously, I'm not looking to replicate practice test 4 on the College Board unless it's designated as a PSAT. So we do have some PSATs that are works that should be live this week.
Yeah, but you're creating something specifically for students that need really hard material that reflects changes in the exam that don't show up in the practice material or practice test that we're seeing in Blue Book. It's a really clear value proposition for educators and for students. It seems very obvious who would want to use this, and I think a lot of tutors, I work with a lot of students that are trying to get perfect scores, and they need to be challenged. For tutors who are skeptical, they're like, well, I don't know if that sounds like that much content, or I can't bear to part with another cent for my students. What would you say is an easy way to figure out if this is right for you or one of your students?
The easiest way really is just to give it a shot. For me, I think just the user friendliness of the platform, it's one of those things where you really just have to see it because it's unlike anything else. And then that coupled with just the transparency that I share with the students that I have and their success on the platform. Most of my students average about a 650 in the verbal section coming to me. When they leave, the average increase is around 70 points. So, they're landing in that mid 700s and they're using this content in order to do that. So, yeah, if you're on the fence, the great thing is it's free to try it. So
That's fantastic. Listen, John, I'd love to hear more about the Gauntlet. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
If listeners would like to learn more about the Gauntlet, where should they go?
Best thing to do would probably just email me at support@tutorstack.com.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next tests and the rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Test and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.